I'm posting this because I can't sit in this room with my headphones on without hearing it anymore. It's Monday, October 20th, 2025, and a week ago, Sunday the 12th, I went with 3 friends to record ambient sound out by the old Inunaki area in Fukuoka. I'm an audio post guy. I capture spaces and sell textures. Subway rumble, rain gutters, cicada sheets under power lines, and lately I've been making good money off derelict infrastructure. It sounds dumb until you layer it into a horror trailer and someone pays you. The plan was clean. Yuta, 33, photojournalist, always cool. Ren, 29, wiry, a vlogger who over-narrates everything. And Daichi, 35, broad-shouldered, our driver since university road trips, would scout. I'd record. We'd be back by midnight with beer heroics and boring files. I keep telling myself it was just a job, but I brought something home that doesn't care how I label it. We'd been on a mini run of sites. 1 culvert under a rural road, 1 moss-loaded footbridge. Inunaki was supposed to be the last stop. Just the tunnel and the old access road. A few minutes of dripping water ambience. Maybe a trace of bat chatter to sweeten my high end. The legends are textbook. A lost village past the tunnel. A sign about the law not applying. A policeman with a face you can't remember correctly when you try to describe it. A dog that won't stop crying. Internet lore from early forums and bored TV shows. We bought canned coffee and onigiri at a gashuku-style convenience store where the clerk told us, in that polite way older men have, that the hillside fog comes fast after dusk. He didn't tell us not to go. He said, "Don't borrow anything you can't return," which sounded like a proverb until later it didn't. The climb in was altogether normal. That sour pine smell and the way your ears read the hill before your feet do. There was a chain on the service gate, but the side trail was beaten in by 1,000 bored teenagers with phones and no plans. By the time we reached the mouth of the old tunnel, the light had flattened out to that gray in-between when the weather can't pick a side. I checked my levels. I always do a test where I clap to sample the space. The first echo came back a little flanged, like the tunnel coughed the sound through its teeth. Normal enough with odd geometry, I told myself. Ren did his spiel into the camera about infamous Inunaki, and Yuta rolled his eyes at me like, do not let him turn this into content. We stepped in. Inside, the acoustics shifted from wet to velvet. I recorded the drip patterns, long, slow droplets that hit with a bass note you feel in your ribs. Bats rustled somewhere I couldn't triangulate. Yuta took a few shots of the ceiling and said the concrete heap had collapsed before and been patched with rough segments. I clapped again, and the return hung longer, as if the tunnel had grown a half-meter in the last minute. I set a small Omni mic on the floor, centered, and whispered a slate. October 12th, 2025, Inunaki access. Long takes. My breath bounced back later than it should have. Daichi said he could smell iron. He was right. The metallic tang was almost pleasant, like a subway platform right before the train arrives. Ren found the first thing, and because it was Ren, he tried to make it a bit. Someone had scratched "Okaeri nasai," welcome back, into the film of lichen not 20 steps inside, and below it, a childish drawing of a man in a peaked cap. Urban art, he announced, but his voice cracked. I was about to roll my eyes when my recorder, which I had clipped to my harness with the inputs live but not rolling, played something through its tiny speaker, a whispering hiss, like air through cloth. I hadn't armed the track. I thumbed the screen. Deleted file recovered, blinked for a second, and then faded. I've never seen that on this unit. I hit record for real, partly to prove to myself it was fine. On the headphones, I heard the tunnel. And under it, something like breathing that wasn't synchronized with mine. Yuta swore softly and raised his camera. At the thermal edge of the light, a person stood. not close enough to read a face. The cap was what hit me. The same peaked outline from the scratch drawing. Daichi said, in the cheerful way of a guy who always tries to fix the vibe, "Must be another explorer." He called out a hello that sounded like a question. It came back a beat late, as if the tunnel had to translate it. Ren said we should go say hi. I wanted another minute of ambience. Priorities sound different when you're wearing headphones that make your world 2 inches wide. The figure lifted an arm like a polite wave, and I realized the elbow bent just slightly wrong, like the length of the forearm didn't match. We went deeper, because that's what you do when the map in your head says just 30 more meters. The air temperature dropped enough to mist our exhalations. There were small footprints in the silt that looked like a child had run through before the puddles formed. Daichi crouched to pick something out of the mud, a 100 yen coin, old, the chrysanthemum worn smooth. "Souvenir," he grinned. The word struck me like a small stone. "Don't take anything you can't return," I said, only half joking. He slipped it into his pocket. The recorder whispered again in my harness. I checked the screen. Now it said recording 000, but the counter didn't advance. The levels twitched to a sound I can only describe as a dog pulling a breath before a long howl, stretched thin. The fog found us fast. One moment the concrete seams were crisp, the next they were soft-edged, like a white thumbprint. I heard later that the hill's microclimate does that. I heard it a lot from very normal people. In the moment, I stepped toward where the figure had been and got only a blank, bright gray. Ren, who jokes through everything, didn't. He said, "Guys, I think we should," and then shut up. Yuta grabbed my sleeve. We turned together and discovered the entrance was also gray. You know those aquarium tunnels where the water wraps your peripheral vision and the world is there and not there? It was like that, except the water breathed. My recorder's tiny screen blinked a new message, a simple 2-character name that wasn't a name I recognized, and then the kanji rearranged themselves into my surname. We decided without deciding. Daichi went first. Yuta shouldered me forward. Ren kept his hand on the wall as if that could keep the world in order. Somewhere in the fog, we passed something strung with wet paper talismans that brushed my knuckles. The figure with the cap appeared again, closer now, not rushing us, just always at a distance that felt like politeness. He lifted a hand, and the fingers were too long, in a way I would not have noticed if my brain hadn't been looking for mistakes. Yuta said, "Go," in the tone you use when the house is on fire but you haven't told the kids. We stumbled into air that moved differently. There was a little Jizo to the left of the mouth, the stone baby worn to a lump with a red bib someone had replaced not so long ago. Ren rang the bell by instinct. The fog collapsed like something taking a step backward. We hit the van like it was a lifeboat. Daichi dropped the coin from his pocket while wrestling the keys, and it rolled in a circle like it couldn't decide on a direction before settling chrysanthemum side up. He swore, grabbed it, and I said, "Leave it." He stuffed it back in again out of habit. The engine caught on the second try. I asked Yuta later if engines usually sound like they're laughing when they're relieved. He told me I was overtired. The dashcam record light blinked. Headlights cut only 10 meters before the world turned to graph paper void. At the first curve, we passed a sign I didn't remember on the way up, white with black characters that didn't fix themselves in my head. When I tried to read it, the words translated themselves into a feeling like embarrassment. Daichi spat, "We're going down," like it was a spell. Normality returned the way a TV returns to a sitcom after a loud commercial. We pulled into the highway service area with that hard, ugly relief you get after white-knuckling a mountain road. Inside, kids argued about melon soda. A couple in matching jackets shared curry and laughed. We sat with noodle cups and didn't talk for a while. Then we talked too much, in the forgiving light, and rearranged what had happened until it felt smaller. Fog, echoes, pareidolia, an overactive imagination fed by 100 copy-paste stories. Ren checked his footage. White smears, a few damp close-ups, our ugly faces. Yuta had a still of the tunnel mouth, where a human figure might have been if you wanted one there. Daichi put the coin on the table and then snatched it back when a kid walked too close. "I'll toss it at home," he said. He did not say where home was. Back in Tokyo, I cleaned the files and took a first listen. All the good parts were technical. The slow drip with a beautiful low resonance. That broad woolen reverb perfect for the underside of a trailer sting. I almost convinced myself I'd use the take without trouble. In my DAW, the spectrogram showed something odd. 3 evenly spaced vertical spikes at 303, 606, and 909, as if the tunnel had tried to mark time. When I soloed the layer under the drip, the breathing sound resolved itself into syllables. Not Japanese at first, not anything. Then when I looped it, the shapes fell into place. Okaeri, welcome home. The vowels lengthened until they didn't sound like vowels, just someone smiling while they talked. At 303A. My phone buzzed on the desk. A photo from Ren. The name on my screen bright in the dark. The shot was of the tunnel wall, close up, slick with condensation, so the camera's flash turned every drop into a little star. In the center, someone had smeared the same 2 characters I'd seen on my recorder screen, and beneath them, my family name. I texted back, "When did you take this?" 3 gray dots. Then, nothing. A minute later, he wrote, "I didn't send that." A second after that, he sent, "I think someone is in my hallway." A minute after that, he sent a photo without text. His apartment's entranceway, shoes neatly lined, 2 wet footprints leading from the door to where the photo cut off. I called him. It rang once and then the call failed. Somewhere in my apartment, a long dog's breath inhale found the shape of the room. I got up. My headphones dangled around my neck so I could tell myself I had a reason to carry them like a collar. The entryway was clean, no footprints, no water. I've never been so grateful for a dry mat. I cracked the door and listened to the building's breath, the soft elevator whine, someone's TV muttering through a wall, a cat's claws ticking on tile 2 doors down. Nothing else. I set the recorder on the floor and hit record. It would be funny later, I thought. It would be a detail. On the headphones, the hallway sounded like a hallway. Then something walked past the mic. No footsteps, just the specific shift of air pressure when a tall adult moves in a narrow space. My hair rose like it had opinions. I stopped the take. The timestamp said 0000. Yuta mailed me the dashcam card 2 days later. He said he didn't want to look at it anymore. On it, during the stretch between the tunnel and the service area, the windshield view is fog and the aesthetic of panic. Every so often, the camera tries to lock focus on the glass, and for a single frame, you get a reflection of the van interior more than the road. In one of those frames, beside my shoulder, a peaked cap is visible, as if someone very tall is sitting in the back seat, chin tucked so low you can't see a face. Not absence, just a smoothness where details should be. Also in the box was something wrapped in paper, the 100 yen coin. Daichi had written, "I'm sorry, keep it for now." The paper smelled like metal. The coin's edge bit my thumb. This morning, I woke to someone knocking the polite way, 3 times, with the kind of rhythm you use when you don't want to wake the whole floor. I waited for the intercom to buzz. It didn't. The peephole showed only the neutral hallway. But under the door, I could see, very clearly, a shadow reaching across the light seam and then withdrawing, like someone adjusting their hat. I pressed my ear to the wood. On the recorder, when I played it back, the hallway breathed in a shape that fit my doorway exactly. And then, very softly, the thing I brought back in those files spoke in a voice that was almost mine, like an impressionist who's practiced your laugh. It said, "Welcome back," and then my family name. It said it like a prayer, and a confirmation both. And the low sound that followed was a dog drawing the room into its chest so it could howl later,